All right, so next, I want to ask Meredith Mccullough to come up. And, Justin, he talked about that if you don't intervene, then they use that to lobby against you to say, oh, those people want it because they didn't say they didn't. And that's just the old squeaky wheel gets the oil, or in this case, the squeaky wheel does not get the transmission line. And I met Meredith about, I'm going to say 6 or 8 weeks ago, and if Meredith is not the squeakiest wheel I know, I want to meet the one that is. And so we go out, we're in Austin, we're outside the PUC hearing, we're talking. She says, I'm Meredith McCall from, I might have just called you Meredith Mccullough. Meredith McCall, and she said, we're out in San Angelo. And I asked her if she knew Mr. Mccullough, the former district engineer at TxDOT, and she said, that's my dad. So I had an engineering company that I started in 1998, and we did highway work. We were 2 people. One of the very first jobs that we ever got was US 83 from Eden to Menard. That 4-lane divided section, my company did that. And we did a section of 87 going east out of Eden. Her dad gave me that job when we were 2 people, and it was a big job for 2 people. That helped me more than anyone can imagine. And now Mr. Mccullough is helping me again by sending his daughter here to help me. And so, Meredith.
Thanks, Kevin. I love hearing stories about my dad, and I'm going to tell a story about my dad for tonight. This picture here, I think it describes how our family feels this last year. Anyone that's been on a horse in mid-buck knows what it feels like to pray for the ground. And our family sure is praying for the ground. So in early June 2025, my dad just returned home from the hospital to our ranch in Erie County. He was at Shannon Medical Center. Later that week, Wednesday, June 4th, he received his envelope in a plain little envelope, no urgency stamped on it or anything, and he opened it up. It looked like junk mail. And that's where we had the announcement for the public meeting at Big Lake. And our property was going to be impacted on the Big Hill to Sand Lake project. The meetings were scheduled a mere 3 business days later, Monday, June 9th through Wednesday, June 11th. And included in the packet was our ticket for the public meeting. Do y'all remember that? Friday, June 6th of that same week, it was clear that my dad needed to return to the hospital. But he was still determined to go to that public meeting on June 9th because he wanted to understand what was happening at the ranch. So after many hard conversations, my brothers and I made a deal with him that we would attend the public meeting for him if he would go to the hospital at Baylor in Dallas. And so Saturday, June 7th, we picked up Mom and Dad halfway to Dallas. And I remember how sick my dad looked in that car. And we drove him to downtown Baylor in Dallas, got him settled in at that hospital, and then turned around and went back to that meeting that next day. Had my dad stayed for that meeting, he would not be with us today. So my brothers and I are all civil engineers. And at that public meeting there in Big Lake, we were astounded by how far along this project had progressed without public input. We were even more concerned because the applicants had little clue about the actual need for the project and the engineering details behind it. So we were frustrated but determined, and we realized that we needed to keep our focus on our dad while he was in the hospital, and that we needed some help. And that's when we immediately hired an attorney. So my dad was in the hospital for another month and a half at downtown Baylor, followed by another month and a half of rehab in Dallas. And after 3 months of intense health challenges, he finally returned to our ranch in Erie County on a beautiful August day with grass aplenty everywhere, and there were rain clouds in the sky and a beautiful double rainbow that day. And I took pictures because it was such a beautiful day. I took pictures, and those pictures were included in my direct testimony on the docket. But I wonder, how many more days do we have to look at the beautiful West Texas sky? I hope our days are not limited. So fast forward to January 15th, when our docket officially opened, and that's when we learned our property was on the best met route, and it was filed by Encore and LCRA. We intervened before we got our packet only because our attorneys were watching the docket for us. The deadline to intervene was February 16th, 1 month. It goes fast, guys. But we waited, and we waited, and we waited. And very few people came forward to intervene. No one was coming to the table. And we had assumed that other landowners knew about the project. But halfway to the deadline, we realized something that nobody knew, and nobody was coming to the table. So we went to work. We called our neighbors. We posted flyers in the post office, and we were shocked by how many people did not know or had been badly misinformed about the PUC process. Some believed that we should just wait and see what the commissioners decided, and we had to work hard to correct that misunderstanding. We tried, and I tell you all this because out of the 1,000 property owners on this docket for the Big Hill to Sand Lake, we had 35 interveners total. That's it. We tried to sound the alarm, but the speed of the 180-day process outran our ability to mobilize. Don't be like our CCN docket, okay? This may feel like a David and Goliath fight, and maybe you feel like it's not worth the effort, but I'm here to tell you that it is, okay? Because these transmission mains will open up corridors for other transmission mains, other pipelines, data centers, and each one of those will be chipping away at your property, and it's not worth a 50% or more reduction in your property value and the permanent loss of control of your property, okay? So there are weaknesses in this application. I sat through 3 days of SOA hearings. The applicants nor the commissioners have ever built a 765 kVA line. The engineering team lacks experience with this infrastructure of this scale, and this raises safety concerns, especially for counties like ours that have oil and gas infrastructure all throughout the area. The need for this project has been misrepresented and twisted, and it makes no sense to claim that this line is necessary to deliver power to the most energy-rich region of our state. When it comes time to prepare for your direct testimony, it is critical to call out a couple of things, okay? Number one, the inadequacy of your notice. Did you get a notice? If and when you got it. Document. Also, it is important to note in that testimony, who told you about this process? Was it the PUC and Encore, or was it the wonderful volunteers here in this room, okay? How this project disrupts your land and your livelihood, that's very important to bring out in your testimony. And the true lack of need for this project. 10 years ago, we had the CREZ lines come through here, taking energy from the windmills and the solar farms to the population centers. Now, we're taking electricity from the population centers back to West Texas. Okay, does that make sense? And then lastly, you need to talk about the safety risks, especially if you have a pipeline that crosses your property. Do not assume that your neighbors know about this project. Call them and talk to them. And again, like Justin and everyone else has said, this process is set up to turn neighbor against neighbor. But now that we know that, we can do better, okay? So every one of us has the right to protect our property first, okay? Remember that. Then your neighbor's property second. Then keep it out of your county. And then ultimately tear the thing down out of the state, okay? In that order. Now, I know every single one of you has a story to tell, and you have a situation in your life that's going on right now, like our family situation. You have a history of your property, and how you provide food and fiber to our great state and our country. And so let's be sure that we tell the PUC these things so that they hear it. And now with that, I'm going to turn it over back to Kevin and Mia, who's going to come in here and tell you exactly how to do that.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Meredith.